The chamber of the Galactic Council shimmered with artificial starlight. Each beam, refracted through crystal panels arching over the delegates' heads, bathed the hall in cold radiance. The great chamber was carved from obsidian alloy, its walls etched with the emblems of 27 civilizations, emblems of dominance, prosperity, and ancient arrogance. Captain Mara Vance stood at the center platform, alone. Her boots rang against the polished floor, as if every step dared the council to listen. She was not dressed in ceremonial garb, nor did she with a standard envoy sash. Her battle-worn uniform bore scorch marks, and dry blood streaked one sleeve. Human blood, alien blood, perhaps both. The sight of her sparked murmurs among the gathered delegates, a ripple of unease that echoed beneath the dome. "I speak for the people of Earth," Mara said, her voice cutting through the murmur like a blade. Her tone was neither pleading nor diplomatic. It was a soldier's voice, tempered by smoke and gunfire. "We warned you before. We asked you to leave our colonies alone. Yet you burned Arrivo's prime." Her eyes swept over the council seats, each filled by a different species, scaled, feathered, crystalline, or flesh. None met her gaze directly. "You murdered civilians, children." A wave of chittering laughter burst from the seats of the ZHYRN delegates, spindly insectoids with mirrored eyes. Others joined them. The gelatinous Auric, rippling with cruel amusement. The towering reptilian Veltari, their ridged heads tilted back as if savoring a private joke. And at the center, seated on a throne carved of petrified bone, Chancellor Krythar Veltari allowed himself a slow, deliberate smile. "Human," Krythar drawled, his voice low and resonant. "Your kind plays at war, but does not understand the weight of it. You bring us accusations, as though your suffering matters to the stars. Arrivo's prime was a nest of defiance. Its destruction is a kindness, an end to your illusions of independence." Mara's jaw tightened. "Kindness? You butchered unarmed settlers. You poisoned the soil so nothing will grow there again. You believe that makes you strong." She took a step forward, and for an instant, the council guards reached for their weapons. Her voice dropped, raw and steady. "Strength is surviving when every hand is against you. Strength is rising from the ashes and making your enemies choke on their victories." The chamber fell silent, save for the faint hum of energy shields. Mara's gaze never left Krythar's obsidian black eyes. "I came here to deliver one message. If you strike us again, there will be no peace. There will be no surrender. Humanity will hunt you to the edge of every star, and you will remember our names in fear." Krythar's claws flexed over Throne's armrest, tapping a slow rhythm. His eyes gleamed with something between contempt and curiosity. "And how will you hunt us, little human? With your rusted fleets? With your scattered colonies? Your species cannot unite for more than a generation before tearing itself apart. Do you expect us to tremble at the words of a single soldier?" Mara inhaled, slow and deliberate, as though weighing the measure of her anger. Then she smiled, but it was a smile devoid of warmth. "No," she said. "I expect you to laugh. I expect you to think we're too fractured, too weak, because that's what you've always believed. It's what every empire has believed right before it fell." One of the crystalline Virex delegates hissed sharply. "Threats? Do you come here to threaten the council?" Its voice reverberated, fracturing into echoes. "Not threats," Mara said. "Promises." She pulled a small device from her belt and pressed it. A hologram burst to life in the center of the chamber. Images spiraled into the air, wreckage of council frigates floating in the void, torn apart by human firepower. Alien corpses drifted, their armor shredded. Gasps spread through the assembly. A few delegates recoiled. Krythar's smile faltered just for an instant. "This was your peace patrol," Mara said. "Your elite. You thought they'd crush us in a single strike. But they're gone. Our engineers took their weapons. Our pilots learned from their tactics. Every ship you send makes us stronger. Every death teaches us how to kill you faster." Krythar's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "You dare." "I dare because I have nothing to lose," Mara cut in, her voice rising. "We've bled enough. Humanity doesn't back down when threatened. We adapt. We endure. And when we are cornered, we bite. For a moment, the room was still. Even the hum of the shields seemed to vanish. Mara turned slowly, her gaze sweeping across the delegates. This is your chance. Leave our worlds alone. Stop your raids, or you will never know peace again. You'll look over your shoulder and see us coming. Krythar rose to his full height, towering over her. His scaled form shimmered under the artificial starlight, every movement deliberate and menacing. You will regret these words, he said. Your species will regret its arrogance. We will grind your bones into the dust of forgotten worlds. Mara tilted her head slightly, as if studying a creature too arrogant to recognize its own fear. Maybe, she said, but if we fall, we'll make sure you remember us every time you see a scar in your fleets. And when you close your eyes, you'll hear our war cries. The laughter that followed was forced, brittle, no longer unanimous. Mara stepped back, lowering the projector. This council is blind. You think your power makes you untouchable. You're wrong. The next time you see me, I won't be standing in this chamber. I'll be standing on the wreckage of your ships. She turned sharply and strode toward the chamber doors. No one stopped her. The guards parted, unsure if their weapons would even matter against someone who carried that kind of fire in her voice. As the doors sealed behind her, the counselors murmured among themselves, uneasy, agitated. Krythar sank back into his throne, claws flexing as if carving invisible scars into the air. Mara stepped onto the shuttle waiting outside. The human pilot glanced at her, his face pale. How did it go? She buckled herself in and stared out at the void, her voice a cold whisper. They laughed. Good. Let them. They'll understand soon enough. The engines roared as the shuttle departed, leaving the council's artificial star burning in the distance like a symbol of everything humanity was prepared to fight. The shuttle broke atmosphere like a spearhead, slicing through thin clouds stained with ash. Erivo's prime spread beneath Captain Mara Vance in a ruinous sprawl, once a vibrant colony, now a graveyard of blackened plains and hollow cities. The horizon was scarred with smoking craters, where council firebombs had turned farmland into glass. God, murmured Lieutenant Rennie Barr from the co-pilot's seat, his young face pale. It's worse than the reports. Reports don't carry the stench, Mara said. Even through the shuttle's filters, she smelled it. Burned metal, charred flesh, and the acrid tang of chemicals that would poison the soil for decades. She kept her voice level, but each site below, collapsed shelters, scorched vehicles, skeletal remains, carved deeper into her chest. The shuttle landed on a makeshift platform outside the colony's ruins. Armed survivors, miners, farmers, and engineers turned soldiers were waiting. They wore mismatched armor scavenged from wrecks, their eyes hollow yet unbroken. A tall man stepped forward. His arm was bandaged and soot streaked his face. Captain Vance, he said, saluting with his uninjured hand. Sergeant Coltarin, we've held what we could, but it's barely a skeleton crew now. Mara's gaze swept over survivors. There were fewer than she'd expected. How many civilians? Cole's jaw tightened. Out of the 70,000 that lived here, maybe 10,000, scattered in tunnels and outposts. The rest, he didn't finish. He didn't need to. Ren swallowed hard and muttered, They call this a kindness. Mara didn't answer. She walked past Cole, stepping onto the cracked ground. Each footfall crunched over fragments of lives, shattered toys, scorched photographs, twisted metal once part of homes. Her fingers brushed against a piece of glass, still warm from the sun, and she wondered if it had once been a window overlooking a child's bedroom. Cole followed her. The bastards hit us with precision strike first, took out the comm grid, power stations. Then they deployed incendiaries. Families ran into the fields to escape the heat, but his voice cracked. He forced it steady. We were herded, like animals. They wanted to break you, Mara said, her voice low. They failed. You're still standing. Cole's mouth tightened, but a flicker of pride lit his eyes. We are, and we're not done. They reached the underground command center, hidden beneath a half-collapsed factory. The heavy door groaned open, revealing a dim, crowded space buzzing with makeshift screens and flickering holograms. Refugees huddled in corners, some wounded, some silent with shock. Engineers tinker with salvage drones, while medics patch the injured with dwindling supplies. Mara's presence drew every gaze. These people weren't looking for pity. They wanted direction. She climbed onto a raised platform and surveyed the room. "They think this is the end of us," Mara said, her voice carrying over the hum of machinery. "They think they can burn our homes, poison our worlds, and leave us crawling in the dust. But they don't understand what they've done. They've forged us harder than we've ever been. Every life they took here will be paid for tenfold." A murmur rippled through the room, growing into a determined silence. Rin stepped forward, holding a portable projector. "We have intel on their patrol routes," he said. "A Velthari fleet is moving to secure nearby colonies. If we strike now, hit their supply line, they'll never see it coming." Mara nodded. "We take what's left of their strength and use it against them. Every ship we salvage, every weapon we steal, it's ours now." An engineer with grease-streaked cheeks stood up. "We've already started. We gutted 3 of their drones and rebuilt them. They'll carry our bombs next time, not theirs." Mara's lips curved into a thin smile. "That's how humans fight. We don't wait for permission. We improvise. And when they think they've broken us, we show them how wrong they are." Cole's voice cut through the growing energy. "You've seen the Council, Captain. Do they even care what we do?" "They laugh," Mara admitted. "Krythar himself called us savages. He thinks this is over. That's why we have the advantage." She leaned forward, her voice sharpening like a blade. "They don't fear us yet. We'll change that." The room erupted in grim agreement. Night fell heavy on Arivos Prime. From the command center's entrance, Mara watched the horizon glow faintly with the smoldering remains of farms. A small figure approached, a girl no older than 10, clutching a melted metal pendant. Her wide eyes met Mara's. "Is it true?" the girl asked softly. "You're going to fight them?" "Yes," Mara said, kneeling. "We're going to fight until they can't hurt us anymore." The girl held out the pendant. It was warped, but the faint outline of a family crest remained. "This was my dad's. He died when the ships came." Mara took the pendant gently, her throat tightening. "I'll carry this, and I'll make sure they remember him." The girl nodded once, her expression fierce for someone so small. Then she turned and walked back to the shelter without another word. Rin appeared at Mara's side. "She's why we can't lose," he said. "No," Mara said quietly, staring at the pendant in her palm. "She's why we won't." At dawn, the Valkyrie touched down outside the ruins, its black hull reflecting the pale light. The sight of the warship ignited something in the survivors, hope laced with anger. Mara stood before them, her shadow stretching long across the rubble. "We launch at dusk," she told them. "The Council will expect us to crawl into hiding. Instead, we'll strike their convoy near the Caldros Rift. We'll take their weapons and make the galaxy see us for what we are, hunters." Cole stepped forward, gripping a salvage rifle. "Whatever happens, we'll make them pay." Mara's gaze swept across the crowd. This is a line they crossed. "From this day on, we don't fight for survival alone. We fight to show them what humanity is. Every world they touch, every star they claim, we will remind them. We don't break. We bite back." The crowd erupted, their voices ragged but united. The fire in their eyes matched her own. Mara turned toward the Valkyrie, her steps quick, her resolve carved into stone. The Council had laughed. Soon, their laughter would choke on the smoke of their burning ships. The Valkyrie slid through the void like a silent predator, its blackened hull coated with radar-scattering alloys stripped from captured Council drones. Beyond its narrow observation deck, the Caldros Rift glowed faintly, a massive field of fractured asteroids spinning in lazy arcs, lit by the pale shimmer of distant stars. Somewhere beyond the drifting stone lay the convoy, a line of Velthari supply ships guarded by sleek war cruisers. Captain Mara Vance stood with her hands braced on the tactical console, watching the ripples of data feed into the holographic map. Red markers pulsed, Council ships large and heavily armed. Blue motes represented her own forces. The Valkyrie, 2 frigates salvaged from wreckage, and a swarm of retrofitted attack drones. It wasn't much, but it didn't have to be. "Status?" she asked, her voice low. Lieutenant Rennie Barr leaned over a flickering display, his jaw tense. "Convoy ETA, 12 minutes. They haven't detected us yet. Their cruisers are running standard patrol formations." Mara's lips thinned. "Predictable. Good." Behind them, the crew moved with silent efficiency. Every person aboard carried scars from a Revos Prime or another colony like it. No one here fought for orders alone. They fought for vengeance. The plan was simple but brutal. The rift's unstable gravity fields made long-range sensors unreliable. Mara's ships would hide in the asteroid shadows, waiting until the convoy drifted into the kill zone. Then they'd strike, swift, surgical, and merciless. She turned to the crew. "We hit fast. Drones first, targeting their engines. I don't want a single ship escaping to warn the Council. We board what's left, strip everything valuable, and leave nothing but debris." Chief Engineer Lyra Tan, a wiry woman with oil-stained hands, spoke up from the drone control station. "Our birds are loaded with scrap warheads. Not pretty, but they'll crack hull plating like eggs." "Pretty doesn't win wars," Mara said. "Prepare for launch." Minutes bled away, measured by the distant rumble of the Valkyrie's engines adjusting position. The asteroid field loomed closer, shadows swallowing the ship as they drifted into hiding. Through the forward viewport, the first glimmers of the convoy appeared. A long column of cargo haulers, flanked by 2 Veltri cruisers with blade-like hulls glowing faintly in the dark. Rin cursed under his breath. Their escort's heavier than expected. Mara's eyes narrowed. "Doesn't matter. We don't back down." The drones launched like a storm of angry hornets, slipping from a Valkyrie's underbelly without a sound. On Mara's command, they broke formation, scattering through the rift's rocks and debris. Each carried a crude warhead, salvage explosives, and sharpened fragments of alien metal. "Wait for my signal," Mara said, watching the convoy glide closer. The Veltri cruiser scanned the rift, oblivious to the danger nestled among the stones. At the perfect moment, Mara gave the order. "Now!" The first wave of drones shot forward, engines screaming. Explosions flared along the lead cruiser's hull as the improvised warheads struck its engine ports. Sparks of molten shards cascaded into the void. The second cruiser spun toward the attack, firing plasma bursts that lit the rift like fireworks. "Frigates, move!" Mara shouted. The 2 salvage ships roared from hiding, weapons blazing. Their cannons tore into the convoy's rear guard, shredding unarmored cargo haulers before the Veltri could regroup. The bridge shuddered as enemy fire streaked toward the Valkyrie. Mara gripped the console, her voice steady. "Angle shields. Bring us between their cruisers." The Valkyrie surged forward, weaving through asteroid fragments as plasma bolts skimmed past. Its forward cannons lit up, hammering the weakened cruiser with a volley that punched clean through its midsection. The ship split apart, bleeding fire and debris. "First cruiser down," Rin yelled, his face bright with grim satisfaction. The remaining cruiser turned its guns on the Valkyrie, but Mara was faster. Drones swarmed their weapons array. The swarm obeyed. They darted across the cruiser's surface, clamping onto its glowing turrets and detonating in rapid succession. Explosions tore open the hull, scattering chunks of alien metal into the void. The Veltri ship faltered, spinning slowly as its systems went dark. "Boarding teams, go," Mara ordered. From Valkyrie's launch bays, shuttles shot toward the drifting cruiser. The boarding parties, engineers, miners, and soldiers, all armed with stolen and improvised gear, latched onto hull and cut their way in. On the bridge, Mara monitored the comms. The crackle of gunfire and heavy breathing filled the air as her people fought room to room. A voice broke through, harsh and breathless. "Captain, engine room secured. Veltri are down. We've got control of their systems." "Good," Mara said. "Pull every scrap of data you can. I want star charts, fleet movements, weapon schematics, everything." By the time the battle ended, the rift was littered with burning wrecks. The convoy's cargo haulers had been stripped of supplies. Fuel cells, rations, weapons, even medical kits. Mara walked to the captured Veltri cruiser's main deck. Alien blood streaked the walls, mixing with scorch marks from human plasma cutters. She stepped over a fallen alien soldier, scaled and towering, its black eyes still wide with shock. Rin joined her, holding a data core the size of his forearm. "They didn't even encrypt this one," he said. "Arrogant bastards thought no one would dare touch their convoys." Mara's gaze was cold, her mind already racing. "What's on it?" "Preliminary scans show fleet deployments along the outer colonies. They're building up for something big." "Then we stay ahead of them," Mara said. She turned to crew working around her, stripping weapons from the alien ship. "Every battle we win gives us another weapon to use against them. This is just the start." Hours later, the Valkyrie floated in open space, its cargo bays crammed with salvage supplies. The crew gathered in the mess hall, tired, bruised, but triumphant. Lyra raised a dented mug, grinning through the grime on her face. "To the hunters," she said, "and to every council ship that thinks we're prey." A cheer rose, raw and ragged. Mara didn't smile. She stood at the edge of the room, studying the crew's faces. They were alive, but she knew the road ahead would only grow bloodier. Rin approached her quietly. "We can't keep hitting them like this forever. Sooner or later, Krythar will notice." "He already has," Mara said. She looked out at the stars beyond the viewport. "That's the point. I want him to notice. I want him to see us coming, and know there's nothing he can do to stop it." The stars outside glittered like steel waiting to be forged into blades. Mara tightened her grip on the pendant the little girl had given her, its warped edges pressing into her palm. "We don't run anymore," she said. "From now on, the hunt is ours." The galaxy no longer ignored humanity. Every system near the frontier burned with skirmishes, wreckage of council ships scattering across the stars like broken teeth. The Valkyrie spearheaded it all, weaving destruction to the council supply lines and leaving entire sectors trembling. But victory came with a cost. Captain Mara Vance stood in the Valkyrie's war room, surrounded by floating holograms of battle zones. Each blinking blue mark represented a human strike force, each red mark an alien fleet. Too many reds. "They're adapting," said Lieutenant Rennie Barra, his voice rough from exhaustion. "Vel-3 cruisers are running tighter formations. Their patrol routes have doubled. We won't catch them by surprise much longer." Mara's eyes swept the map, her jaw set. "Then we hit them where they think they're strongest." Rin hesitated. "The weapons depot at Dravik Station?" "That's the one," Mara said. "If we take it, we'll cripple their production lines across 3 sectors. Chief Engineer Liratan frowned, grease still streaking her face from repairing the hull. "That depot's guarded like a goddamn fortress. We barely survived the Caldro's rift. This is suicide." Mara leaned on the table, her gaze unwavering. "We can't win by playing safe. We strike hard, we steal their weapons, and we show them no wall is high enough to stop us." 2 days later, the Valkyrie and its ragtag fleet approached the Dravik sector. The depot loomed ahead, a massive structure built into the hollow of a fractured moon. Towering spires jutted from its surface, bristling with cannons and shield arrays. A dozen council warships patrolled the perimeter, their hulls gleaming under the pale light of a nearby star. The bridge of the Valkyrie was silent. Even the hum of the engines felt subdued. Mara stood at the center, eyes locked on the depot through the viewport. "This is where we make them bleed," she said. "Run, status?" "Fleet ready," Rin replied. All ships reporting weapons armed. "Drones are prepped for a first strike." Lyra's voice cut in from the engineering console. "Shields running at maximum output. I can give you 30 seconds of overdrive if things get ugly, but after that, we'll be naked." Mara nodded. 30 seconds is enough. The first salvo came from the humans. Drones streaked toward the depot like a swarm of sparks, dodging cannon fire and slamming into shield emitters. Explosions bloomed across the moon's surface, shaking the station's defenses. "Target their power grid," Mara ordered. "If we drop their shields, we own this fight." The Valkyrie's cannons roared. Blue fire lanced across the void, striking the depot's outer towers. Shards of metal and molten debris spiraled into space. The Council's response was immediate. A wall of plasma bolts, green and searing, rained toward Mara's fleet. Frigate 2 just took a hit. Wren shouted. They're venting atmosphere. Tell them to hold formation. Mara snapped. No one breaks. We finish this or we die trying. The ship shuddered as a plasma burst grazed its shields, lighting the bridge in a violent green glare. Mara didn't flinch. Lyra, she said, cut power to non-essential systems. Everything goes to weapons. You got it, Lyra replied, fingers flying across the console. Say goodbye to the lights and the coffee maker. Through the chaos, Mara spotted an opening. A weak point near the depot's fuel lines. All ships, concentrate fire on grid sector 3, she commanded. The combined barrage from the fleet slammed into the depot's shields. They flared, flickered, then collapsed in a ripple of dying energy. They're exposed. Wren yelled, boarding teams, go. Mara ordered. Shuttles launched from the Valkyrie, streaking toward the gaping wound in the depot's defenses. Inside, chaos reigned. Valkyrie soldiers scrambling to repel the intruders, alarms wailing through metallic corridors. Mara led one of the boarding teams herself. She moved like a shadow through the depot's halls, rifle steady, boots pounding on the metal floor. Behind her, a squad of hardened colonists advanced with grim determination. Left flank, someone shouted. Plasma bolts tore through the corridor, scorching walls and melting pipes. Mara ducked behind cover, returning fire. The Valkyrie soldier ahead screeched as her shot burned through its armor. Keep moving, she barked. Control rooms 3 levels up. They fought room to room, the station's defenses crumbling under the relentless push. The air stank of scorched circuitry and blood, alien and human alike. At one junction, Wren's voice crackled over comms. Captain, we secured the lower levels. Engineering is ours. Good. Lock down their weapon systems. Mara replied, I'm heading to command. The command deck of the depot was a fortress of steel and glass. As Mara's team breached the final doors, the Valkyrie commander turned, its scaled face curling into a sneer. Humans, it hissed, voice dripping with contempt. You are insects, nothing more. Funny, Mara said coldly, stepping forward. For someone calling us insects, you look pretty scared. The alien lunged for a control panel, but Mara's shot pinned its clawed hand to the console. It roared in pain, but she was already at its throat, the barrel of her rifle pressed against its jaw. Your station is ours, Mara said. Tell Krythar we're coming for him next. Hours later, the depot burned. Its spires lay shattered, and its weapon stockpiles were being loaded onto human ships. Survivors cheered as crates of advanced plasma rifles and shield modules were hauled aboard the Valkyrie. Wren found Mara standing on the deck, helmet tucked under her arm. Her face was streaked with sweat and soot, but her eyes burned with victory. You realize we just crippled half their fleet production, right? Wren said, grinning despite the bruises on his jaw. Mara's expression was steel. This isn't enough. Krythar won't stop until we make him afraid. Lyra approached, wiping her hands on a rag. We've got enough weapons here to arm every colony, from Erevos to Helion. If they weren't angry before, they will be now. Good, Mara said. She stared out at the debris field, where pieces of alien ships drifted like ghosts. Let them come. Every strike they make will forge us sharper. That night, in the quiet of her quarters, Mara sat alone with a warped pendant from the little girl on Erevos Prime. She turned it over in her hands, its jagged edges cutting faint lines into her skin. A message came through the comms, urgent and grim. Council fleets were massing near the human frontier. Krythar was calling for a total war. Mara closed her hand around the pendant, her voice a whisper of iron. Then let him bring it. We'll be waiting. The wreck of the Nomad spear floated like a corpse in the void, its hull split open by old battles. Sharp fragments of metal jutted outward, glinting faintly in the cold starlight. The derelict warship had been abandoned for decades, a relic of humanity's earliest failed uprisings. Now it would serve as a lure. Captain Mara Van stood on the Valkyrie's bridge, watching the hollow silhouette of the Nomad spear drift against the backdrop of a crimson nebula. Her fleet, patched ships, stolen cruisers, and scavenged drones. hid within the wreck's shadow. Beyond the nebula, Krythar's war armada approached, confident and overbearing. They brought everything, Lieutenant Renibar muttered, his voice low. The holographic display showed a wall of red. 10 Veltari cruisers, 2 heavy carriers, and a swarm of fighter drones. If this fails... It won't, Mara cut in. Her gaze was unyielding. We're not here to survive. We're here to end this. Chief Engineer Lyra Tan swiveled in her chair, her fingers stained with oil. Our systems are running on borrowed time. I reinforced the hull plating and overclocked the shields, but one clean hit from their carriers and... Then we won't let them get that hit, Mara said. Her voice carried enough certainty to quiet the room. The trap was simple but dangerous. Hidden inside the Nomad Spear were improvised explosives and hacking nodes built from stolen Veltari tech. When Krythar's fleet closed in, thinking it had cornered the humans, the wreck would ignite with a burst of EMPs and radiation pulses. In the chaos, the Valkyrie would strike. Contact in 5 minutes, Ren reported. His hands hovered over the tactical console. They're broadcasting a message. It's Krythar. Put him through, Mara said. The main screen flickered, and Krythar's imposing form filled the bridge. His scaled face was expressionless, but his black eyes gleamed with cruel amusement. Human, he said slowly, his deep voice resonating like stone cracking. I expected you to crawl back to whatever pit you came from after Dravik Station. Instead, you hide among wrecks, scavenging scraps like vermin. Mara folded her arms, unshaken. Funny, vermin are hard to kill. You'd know that by now. Krythar's lip curled in a mockery of a smile. This will end today. When I finish with your fleet, I'll burn what's left of your species, until even your bones are dust. Mara stepped closer to the screen, her voice cutting sharp. You think you've faced war. You haven't. Humans don't fight for conquest or power. We fight because we have to. And when you threaten everything we love, we fight until there's nothing left of you to fear. For a moment, Krythar's gaze tightened, the faintest flicker of doubt crossing his face. Then the screen went dark. Arm the charges, Mara said. We end this on our terms. The Veltari fleet entered the nebula like a tidal wave, their ships glowing against a misty red haze. Plasma cannons lit the void, probing for targets. The Valkyrie remained still, masked by the wreck of the Nomad Spear. Every crew member silent as the enemy closed in. Wait for my mark, Mara whispered, her hand hovering over the trigger. The lead cruiser drifted dangerously close to the wreck. Its sensors swept over the debris, unaware of the death waiting inside. 3 seconds, Ren said, sweat beating at his temple. Mara pressed a command. The Nomad Spear erupted in a blinding burst of energy. EMP waves ripped through the nebula, frying drone circuits and shorting Veltari shields. Explosions rippled along the abandoned ship's hull as shrapnel tore into the nearest cruisers, shredding their engines. Now! Mara shouted. All ships attack. The Valkyrie surged from hiding, weapons blazing. Its cannons speared to the weakened enemy ships, tearing open holes before their defenses could recover. Human frigates followed close behind, hurling missiles and drone swarms into the chaotic maelstrom. Cruiser 2 is down. Ren shouted, his voice vibrating with adrenaline. Keep pushing, Mara commanded. Split their formation. Cut the carriers off. The bridge shook as a plasma bolt slammed into their shields, lighting the air with static. Lyra's voice rang out. Shields at 60%. If they hit us again, we're done. Then don't let them, Mara said. Run! Target that carrier's engines. Fire everything. The Valkyrie pivoted hard, its broadside cannons unloading a barrage that ripped through the carrier's stern. Fire bloomed across its hull, vending alien bodies and molten metal into the void. Amid the chaos, Krythar's flagship loomed, a monstrous ship twice the size of the Valkyrie, its hull dark and jagged. Mara's gaze fixed on it. Bring us the flagship, she said. Ren turned to her, disbelief etched on his face. You want a what? He's the head of the beast. Cut it off, and the rest will fall apart, Mara replied. The Valkyrie dove through enemy fire, weaving between wreckage and burning ships. As they neared the flagship, Mara grabbed her rifle. "I'm boarding," she said. "You can't be serious," Ren started. "Run! You have command until I return," she said, locking her helmet into place. "If I don't return, finish this." He stared at her for a long moment, then nodded, his jaw set. "Don't die out there." Mara's shuttle slammed into the flagship's hull, cutting through its outer layer with a spray of sparks. She and her squad stormed the corridors, plasma fire echoing through the metallic hulls. Veltri soldiers lunged from the shadows, their claws slashing, but Mara's rifle answered with precision bursts. They fought their way to the command deck, every step forward leaving alien corpses in their wake. At the center of the bridge stood Krythar, towering and unarmored, his scaled skin glistening under the emergency lights. "You came here to die," he growled. "No," Mara said, stepping forward, rifle raised. "I came here to make sure you remember who we are." Krythar lunged, his speed shocking for his size. Mara dove aside, firing point blank. The shots tore into his shoulder, but he kept coming, slamming her against a console. Her breath left her in a rush. "You are nothing," he snarled, claws tightening around her throat. Mara's hand found the knife at her belt. With a roar, she drove it into the seam of his scaled armor, twisting hard. Krythar staggered, his grip faltering. She shoved him back, leveled her rifle, and fired one final shot into his chest. The Chancellor collapsed, a guttural hiss escaping his lips. Mara keyed her comm, flagship neutralized. Detonate the charges. Outside, the Valkyrie's fleet unleashed its final strike. Explosives planted along the flagship's hull ignited in a chain reaction, tearing the massive vessel apart. The remaining Veltri ships, leaderless and crippled, scattered into the void. On the Valkyrie's bridge, Ren's voice broke the silence. "They're retreating. We did it." Later, as the fleet regrouped among the drifting wrecks, Mara stood on the observation deck, helmet under her arm. Blood streaked her uniform, but her eyes were fierce and unbroken. She opened a channel to every frequency, broadcasting her voice across the stars. "To the Council," she said, her words sharp as steel. "You thought humans were weak. You burned our homes and laughed at our pain. But we are still here. We will always be here. And if you come for us again, we will hunt you F." The Valkyrie turned slowly, its engines flaring as the human fleet set a course back to the colonies. The hunt wasn't over. It had only begun.